Hello friends, today we are going to start new chapter number 9, Forest and Wildlife Resources, lecture number 1. Friends, up to now in the geography part, we have completed chapter number 8, Natural Resources. Friends, when we completed the chapter Natural Resources, we already discussed that what is natural resources. When we are talking about the word resources and when we are talking about forest and the wildlife as an important resource, let us understand first of all what is resources, as we have already learned this in chapter number 8. Friends, resources are very much important for any country. When we are talking about the word resources, that means, if we talk in a simple language, anything that comes in our need or anything that is fulfilling our need, that is considered as a resource. For example, I am having a chalk in my hand. This is considered as a resource as it is fulfilling my need to write on the board. So these chalk can be considered as a resource. If I take the example of a chair, it is again considered as a resource because it is helpful for me to sit. So anything that is coming in our use and that is fulfilling our need is considered as a resource. And what we call natural resource, anything that we get from the environment, from the nature without the human participation is called natural. And if that thing is used to make any kind of resource, that is used for making the raw material, or that is directly used as a resource, then we can consider that thing as a natural resource, because that is resource itself but it is available naturally. For example, we talk about rivers, we talk about the forest, we talk about this wildlife, all these we can consider as the natural resources. Friends, we discussed in our 8th chapter that these resources are very much important for the development of the economy of any country. Resources play a very important role in the development of any country. Though the country is having a huge sum of resources, but if that resources are not utilized properly, it is of no use. Friends, we discussed in the previous standard as well as in the 8th chapter also that resources are of several types. Like these resources can be classified as natural resources, man-made resources, we can consider human resource, we can consider ourselves itself as a resource. Because we are coming in need of someone, we are fulfilling the need of someone or the other. And that is why we also are considered as a human resource. And human resource is very much important for any country. And as well as talented and educated human resource is very important. Friends, in the same way, the country that is very rich with resources, it can develop very speedily. In the previous chapter, we discussed about these resources and its importance. We discussed that there are lots of resources that are renewable and non-renewable resources, conventional and non-conventional types of resources. Friends, here in this chapter we are going to discuss about the two important resources, that is the forest and wildlife. Friends, when we are talking about this forest and wildlife resources, we all are aware that what is forest. We have several times heard about this word forest. Many of them might have visited the forest. Wildlife. We are very much aware about wildlife as well. Since childhood, from the small standard itself, we are learning about the wildlife, the domestic animals and the wild animals. Here in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the valuable resources of India, that is in the form of forest, that is in the form of wildlife. which type of forests are available in India, what is the importance of that, what is the environmental importance of this forest, what is the situation of forest in our country, as well as the importance of wildlife. As we say, the wildlife has a very important place in our Indian culture as well, friends. As we learned in our history part as well, when we were discussing about our natural heritage, that even this wildlife is an important feature of natural heritage. And that is why it is the responsibility of each and every citizen, each and every people of our country to protect this wildlife. And friends, it is due to this reason that it becomes necessary for us to understand about which wildlife are seen in our country, which are becoming extinct day by day. How can we protect this wildlife? Why these wildlife and this forest play a very important role in conserving the environment as well. So friends, we learn one by one about each and everything about this forest and wildlife resources in this chapter. So friends, up to now you might have been clear with the meaning of the topic, that is the forest and the wildlife resources. Let us friends understand in detail with the definition of forest and the virgin vegetation. Let us start with the topic. Definition of forest means the meaning of forest and virgin vegetation. Let us understand about the meaning of forest and virgin vegetation. Now, forests and virgin vegetation. Let us start understanding the meaning of forest and virgin vegetation. The large collection of trees, shrubs, large collection of trees, shrubs or grass growing over a region is called forest. Here the definition is given that the large collection of trees, shrubs or the grass that is growing over a region, a large collection of these, large collection of shrubs, large collection of trees, large collection of grass that is growing on any particular region, then that particular region can be considered as a forest. Friends, this question can be asked, this definition of forest and virgin vegetation can be asked in 1 or 2 marks. So, clearly understand this. Then, the natural vegetation which can raise itself, the natural vegetation which can raise itself naturally without the help of nature, without the help of humans, is called virgin vegetation. Friends, now information, what is called virgin vegetation? That means whatever natural vegetation that can raise itself, that can grow itself naturally without human participation. Here no human participation is. Here people, the humans are not going to do any kind of efforts to grow this forest, to grow this vegetation. and such type of vegetation that are grown without human participation, without the effort of humans, then that kind of vegetation grown naturally, they are known as virgin vegetation. They are known as virgin vegetation. Today, in India, if we talk at the present time, today in India, virgin vegetation exists only in Himalayas. Today in India, these virgin vegetations exist only in Himalayas, Sundarbans, and some remote areas of Thar desert. Friends, where this virgin vegetation is found in the present time? Here it is said that today in India, these type of virgin vegetation only exist in Himalayas, Sundarbans, as well as some remote areas. Remote means अलग-अलग जगह पे. Some remote areas of this Thar desert. So friends, this was the information about the meaning of forest and the virgin vegetation. Friends, you might have understood about this forest and virgin vegetation. Now, let us understand about the classification of forest. Friends, let us understand the classification of forests. Classification of forest with the help of chart. Let us understand the classification of this forest with the help of chart. If we talk about this classification of forest, it is divided into two parts. Classification of forest, it is divided into two parts. First one, that is according to administration. First one is that is divided, that is according to administration. First classification. And the second is according to the ownership, management, and administration. The second is, that is according to ownership, administration, and management. Here, classification of forest, it is classified into two ways. First is according to the administration, and second is classification on the basis of ownership, management, and administration. So friends, here we can clearly see the classification is done in two ways. If we talk about the classification of forest, it is divided into two parts. First was according to the administration, means in which way the administration is done of this forest. And second way, these forests are classified on the basis of ownership, that who is the owner of this forest, according to the management and so you have clearly understood that classification are on two types. Now, if we talk about the administration, according to administration, again it is divided into three parts. If we talk about according to administration, it is divided into three parts. Reserved forest. If we talk about administration, the first is the reserved forest, second is protected forests. The second classification is protected forest. First is reserved forest, second protected forest, and third is unclassified forests. Third is unclassified forest. Friends, here again, first this classification of forest is divided into two branches according to administration and according to ownership, management and administration. Then when we look about the first one, that is according to administration, again according to administration, it is classified into three parts: reserved forest, protected forest and unclassified forest. If we look on the other side, that is according to the ownership, management and administration, here again it is divided into three parts. Here again, if we talk about the second part, that is according to the ownership, management and administration, it is again divided into three parts: state forest, communal forests, state forest, communal forest, and last is private forests. So friends, here you can clearly see the classification of forest with the help of chart. So friends, let us understand again that how this whole classification is done. First of all, this classification of forest is divided into two parts, majorly two parts. First is according to administration and second is it is divided, this classification of forest is done on the basis of ownership and management and administration. Again, if we take only the one part, that is according to the ownership, classification on the basis of ownership. Friends, these two questions can be asked differently as well. That give the classification of forest on the basis of administration. Then you have to write the information regarding the classification of only this part, that is the classification according to administration. If the question is asked, give the classification on the basis of the ownership or management and administration, then you have to write the other part of this answer. Both also can be asked together, that give the classification of forest, then you have to write this both the classification. Classification of forest, it is divided into two parts: administration according to ownership, again according to administration, it is divided into three parts. First is reserved forest. What is this reserved forest? We learn in our next lecture in detail about all this classification. Right now we are understanding on the basis of chart that how this classification is done, so that you can clearly understand the concept of classification in detail. Why this type of classification, what is this reserved forest, protected forest and unclassified forest, we learn that in our next lecture. So don't worry about that, friends. Here according to administration, it is divided into three parts. Reserved forest means to administer properly, so that the working can be done properly by the government. The forests are divided into three parts, right? That is, some forests are known as reserved forest, some forests are known as protected forest, and there are some forests which comes in the category of unclassified forest. And if we look on the other side, that is on the classification on the basis of ownership. Now here we have to classify the forest on the basis of ownership. that who is considered as the owner of this forest and who is doing the manageable activities, who is managing that forest. We have to classify the forest on the basis of ownership. Here, three type of ownership is again seen. If we classify on the basis of ownership, again three types. First is state forest, means there are several forests that comes into the ownership of state government. Other is communal forest, that is under the community, and the third is private forest, that is owned by any individual person or the private ownership. So friends, here you might have understood about the very important information of classification of forest on the basis of chart. So friends, today we discussed about the definition of forest and virgin vegetation and the classification of forest with the help of chart. We will discuss in detail in our next lecture. Thank you.